So I'm going to move us right into our next talk. We have Sylvia Lovato from PBS Kids and Michael Shirley from the National Endowment for the Humanities. And they're going to give us a little background on public funding. Isn't that what this is? Yep. Public media, sorry. Public media. Thank you very much.
Hi, everyone. I know that we're the only thing between you and lunch, so hopefully we'll make your half hour worth the time. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about games and public media. When most people think about public media, they think about television and radio still, even though we have been working with games and working with the PBS Kids producers on games for as long as the pbskids.org website has been around, which is I think 15 years now. Like we launched in 1997. PBS itself had a website in I think 1995. So we have been thinking about public media as games, even though I'm talking about kids, so we like more limited web games that we could distribute for free on the web. But still, a lot of people don't think about us that way. So I wanted to put up a couple slides that show us the mission of public media, just so that we can think about that in the context of games. There's nothing here in these, and I know that there are people in the other room that asked us to read what's on the screen, so I'm going to do that. In the PBS mission, we say that we are in charge of providing trusted programming that is uniquely different from commercial broadcasting and treating audiences as citizens, not simply as consumers. So that's one of the things. Nothing there that can't be done with games. PBS invites everyone to explore new ideas and broaden personal horizons with content that expands the minds of children, programs that ensure the worlds of music, theater, dance, and arts remain available to all Americans, documentaries that open up new worlds, non-commercialized news programs that provide citizens with multiple perspectives on world events and cultures. So I think some of those things are actually pretty close to some of what Jesse Shell was talking about this morning, that games are good at, broadening perspectives or helping people put themselves in different situations and new points of view, which is something we're very interested in. So here's a picture of Mr. Rogers. Public media has always been very interested in a front runner in trying to reach children with new technologies. Fred Rogers was one of the first people when television was still new to really talk to kids about what mattered to them and talk to them directly. So making an innovative use of that technology that at the time was still fresh. Sesame Street famously used advertising techniques to sell, quote unquote, numbers and letters to preschoolers. So now in the digital era, the possibilities are endless, and it's sort of hard for us to focus, right? On television, we have a double-edged sword where we have a schedule and we have a limited amount of hours in the day, so that sort of helps us keep focused and curate what, and that schedule is somewhat proportional, although we'd love more funding, but it is somewhat, we have limited scheduling hours and limited funding. In the digital world, we have sort of an unlimited space. We have this huge long tail, but there is no unlimited funding, unfortunately. So we really have to try to focus on what's important and what's more connected to our mission. So one of the things that have been driving us is innovation and making the best use of new platforms to reach children in most efficient ways. So we want to learn about what kinds of games and what style of games and what platforms are the best at engaging and delighting and educating children. So some of the things that we have been looking into recently are gesture-based games and just body input in general. I wish I could do a demo of this game. This is very fun. It's funded by the Ready to Learn partnership. This is a game where the kid can jump. It makes use of the now ubiquitous webcams that all computers and all phones and devices come with. And kids can jump, and as they jump, the camera sees that and helps count the balls that go into this container, and George counts with them. So this teaches numeracy, and they can see the number. They can see the number of balls in the container, they can see the symbol, and they can also hear the number. The man in the yellow hat, actually, because George doesn't talk, so the man in the yellow hat counts, and George just laughs. This is a game called Going Batty. This was funded by our PBS Kids Go broadband grant from the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, and it launched last fall with Halloween, and it teaches kids about animal behavior with the wild crats, which is a program with the Krat brothers. So the camera, again, helps you. The game provides an outline, and kids can imitate bat gestures to learn how bats fly and how they sleep and how they hunt. So again, we're trying to make the interface disappear by having kids play without touching even anything. They're just looking at the camera and playing. This is a new game that hasn't launched yet that's being worked on by WGBH in Boston. And it's a game where kids are going to be able to input through the microphone. So by talking to Marta, the talking dog, they'll be able to make things happen on the screen. So again, no need to touch anything. They can just talk to Marta. Actually, I'll tell you a secret, which is you can make any noise in the game. Of course, we'll register it. You don't have to actually talk, but Marta will talk to you. Another thing we're very interested in is putting kids in the driver's seat and helping them produce. This was also funded by our Go Broadband, PBS Kids Go Broadband grant from CPB. And it's an application that we have on our site that helps kids make their own cartoons. So this is how most people think about PBS Kids for, right, is cartoons. So they come to watch, but we also want to let them make the cartoons. So they can make their own characters in the style of a show. So right now I think we have Arthur and Word Girl, which is some of our popular programs for slightly older kids, not the preschoolers, but the school-aged children. And you can make your own character, but it will fit in. It's not just a random character. You know, Arthur is a program that has animals as characters. Arthur's an aardvark, and he has friends that are bunnies and dogs, etc. So you can make your own Arthur character. And then you can make a cartoon by taking photos of the different frames. And there's a little tutorial you can watch. And then you can post it on the website. So we're trying to let kids, this is not properly a game, it's more of an activity that lets you make a cartoon, but it's just an example of something we're interested in, which is letting kids make their own. And of course, we also want to let them make their own games. And we have sort of dabbled in modding games with some of our producers that work with older children, where kids can play a game and then make their own level by modding. We have a few examples up there, and this is something that we're definitely investing more on. We are trying to, our next step for older kids is going to be trying to put together a virtual world that will be based on game modding. And so we're talking with different folks who work with that kind of application to put together something where kids would learn how games work and they're designed. And we know Eline is probably in the room. Is there anyone here from Eline that makes GameStar Mechanic, which is something we're very interested in? So we're talking to them to see if we can put together a junior version of GameStar. GameStar is for slightly older kids in our audience, so that kids can learn how games work through that, and then they would be invited to make new levels of other games that we can commission with our producers that would feature the characters that they love and that they come to our site to play with. This is just an example of where we've been going. So before our website and our digital presence, including, well, apps are new enough that this is already sort of at the same time as apps, but we were very tied to what was on television. And now in this era of the long tail and an unlimited schedule, we have been able to produce original content with online video. And this is where I hope that we will go with games next, which is something that's not necessarily tied to a program that's on broadcast or even a property that has video on the web, but just it can be just game-based. We are still a little ways away from that. I think that I see this as a goal for us moving forward. We have been able to create 4 properties for older kids from 6 to 8, again with this grant from CPB that I mentioned before. And one of them in particular, Noa Comprende over here, is a property that teaches Spanish. Has been very integrated with interactivity. Jill Peters is in the audience, is the producer of that from Channel 13. So we're excited to move in that direction. I think Noah is an example of something like that includes video and gaming together, and maybe we can move towards the gaming side of that. This is just a screenshot of our Ready to Learn PBS Kids Lab, which is a page that we have that's for adults that just tells you about all our research interests and what we are trying to do with these games that we're publishing, both on touchscreen, which we're so excited about, and the web. So if you're interested in what we're trying to achieve with this, you can find out more about it in the Ready to Learn PBS Kids Lab. And this is also something that's worth mentioning, is that as we offer games that help kids learn, we also hope that they will help us learn about how they learn, because there's so much data that we can collect these days with Google Analytics that's completely non-personally identifiable, so really not a problem for us, that can teach us so much that we could just look at data all day and not do anything else. It's very dangerous for someone who's data happy and wants to learn more about how kids use these things. It's, as you probably know if you've done work with kids, it's hard to test with them because they get really so much into the game, and they might not really answer your questions. They will answer them as they feel right there in the moment, but it's hard to get them to step back and really think philosophically or more broad picture about what they like to do and how they learn and what helps them. So the data is key to us. It's a new world, and we love it, and it should be like a group of people's full-time jobs to look at this data, but we don't have that, so we try to do that on the side and find out more about it. And I am very excited to be here and to talk with game developers about the trends that we should be looking at next. We have been thinking a lot about the physical implications, like things like the gesture input that don't require kids to use a mouse, or the touch screen that we're so excited about that they just take on so quickly. We've done testing with kids who have a device at home, like an iPad, and kids who don't. We try to recruit from both ends of the spectrum, and the kids who don't have an iPad at home, they take onto it in 1 minute, and they can work with the application just as well as the kids who have one at home. It's incredible. So we hope that this will become even more widespread and that it will help children learn. And PBS is not really a funder. We are a commissioner and distributor of content, but now I'm going to pass on the mic to Michael Shirley from the NEH, who is a funder.
Thank you, Sylvia. I'm also very excited to be here because I enjoy talking to media producers and developers. The National Endowment for the Humanities is one of several federal agencies that fund the development of games. I guess our sister agencies in this regard would be the National Science Foundation and the National Endowment for the Arts. We are each mission-driven organizations, federal agencies that have a particular purpose. At the NEH, we are the leading funder of humanities programs in the United States, and there's a couple of funding opportunities for games at NEH. I work in the Division of Public Programs, where we're primarily known as a funder of documentary film programs and programs that appear on PBS. We're one of the leading funders, for example, of Ken Burns, The American Experience, programs on NOVA and American Masters. But what we've learned over the last few years is, quite frankly, the audience for those programs is getting really old. And we really need to reach out and expand that audience that we present the humanities to. And obviously the big audience we want to reach are younger people who do not tune in by and large to the other media programs we fund. So interactive digital media and games is the way that we reach that audience. And you've already heard earlier today about the percentage of younger people between the ages of roughly 10 and 17 who play games. It's over 90%, both boys and girls, and many play daily. So we know at NEH that's an audience we cannot ignore. And so even though we may support, for instance, you look at a big program coming out in the fall, Ken Burns' Dust Bowl, we know that we need to be beyond that broadcast to reach audiences that are much younger, and especially audiences that are in classrooms. And the way to do this is through games and through digital media. There are 2 offices at NEH, I'll talk more about this in just a minute, but that support games. One is the Office of Digital Humanities, and if you go to the NEH website, nih.gov, and go to the Office of Digital Humanities, you will see information about the office and what they support. The Division of Public Programs, again, nih.gov, go to Public Programs, and you will see all the information you need there. NEH puts roughly $8 to $10 million a year into media projects, and games would be, of course, are one of the media that we support. What I want to announce today is that in January of 2013, we will have a new funding opportunity for interactive digital media that will focus, well, one of the principal thrust in this new initiative will be gaming. And we will be releasing new application guidelines sometime in the early fall. That's our big project for the summer in the office, is to get those together. And we will, again, it'll be a January deadline. The decisions will be made in July, and so you could start your projects in early fall 2013. So we will be making a commitment to supporting games in the future. Now, we have supported games already, and I keep talking, every time I travel, like South by Southwest and other places, I'm always talking about Mission US because, well, that's the one game that we have out there that's the big success for us right now. There are others in the works, but that's out. And I want to say a little bit about Mission US, and I don't want to steal the thunder of the folks who are going to speak this afternoon, but I want to talk about Mission US within the context of the National Endowment for the Humanities. Are you familiar with the Mission US game? Have you seen it? Well, you'll see more of it this afternoon if you go to the session. This was produced by WNET and was partially funded by the Division of Public Programs at NEH. It really was funded, I guess the large funder was the Corporation for Public Broadcasting under the American History and Civics Initiative that they ran. They funded a number of games in that initiative. NEH is a co-funder of several of those games. But Mission US is a series of 5 free online immersive games intended for children ages 9 to 13. And what's important to NEH about this game is that it takes kids on an exploration of important historical moments in American history. It is a role-playing game that puts students inside crucial moments in U.S. history, and it leads them to challenge assumptions. It leads them to think about historical contingency and to develop certain historical literacy and skills, certain skills of historical literacy. It teaches them to think about multiple perspectives. And this is what the NEH is about. I mean, this is a game that truly fits ideally with what NEH does, because all of the projects we support are grounded in rich humanities scholarship. They are the product of collaborations between, in this case, game developers and producers and humanities scholars. In other words, the content of the game, even though it has, obviously it has, we think, engaging gameplay, it also has meaningful humanities content. And that's what, when we chose to fund this game, that's what struck us about this. This is what separated this project from other projects that we did not fund at the same time. It fosters core skills of history education, the use of evidence, understanding cause and effect, all of those skills that we want kids in the middle school years to come to understand about history. Recognizing that the world is changing, we are also working with WNET, co-funding with WNET, a mobile game version of the project that will be deployed on iPad and iPhone. We have, that was funded in the Division of Public Programs. We also have a couple of projects I want to talk about funded in the Office of Digital Humanities. Now, the Office of Digital Humanities is special at NEH because it's not the old division like public programs where we want to know everything's going to work and everything's in place. ODH is an office at NEH that prides itself on taking risk. The programs in ODH are, we hope, innovative. They're going to push the envelope. They may fail. Hopefully they'll succeed, but they may fail. But in the Office of Digital Humanities, we will take a risk on them. There are 2 projects I want to speak about. Drama in the Delta, which ODH funded. This is a historical simulation game that explores the racial dynamics of a World War II internment camp for holding Japanese Americans in the Arkansas Delta. What's interesting about this project, the reason we fund it is, one, we think, our reviewers think that it's technologically innovative, but is informed by solid scholarship, and it's also site-specific. In other words, it creates an interactive 3D model of the the landscape, the locations where the story takes place. And this project received what is known as a Level 1 startup grant, which was a $25,000 development grant just to kind of get the ideas together. Then they received a $50,000 Level 2 startup grant, which was a prototyping grant that would enable them to prototype the project. Another project that the Office of Digital Humanities funded is my personal favorite, called Desperate Fishwives. This was a grant to the University of South Carolina to explore the social conditions of 17th century England. They're creating a fictional village that will take students into that village, onto that landscape, to learn social history of 17th century England. We hope, in a way, that the game mechanic that they're developing and will deploy will be a model for history games, as well as games based in literature and virtual tours of cultural and historical sites. I can't show you anything from Drama in the Delta or Desperate Fishwives because they're still working to prototype it, and so there's nothing I can really show you yet. But I think what informs all of the projects that we have supported in the Division of Public Programs and in ODH is, number one, they engage students with serious humanities content. So if you come to the NEH, you need to think about that. You need to think about the humanities scholarship that will inform your project. You need to work with humanities scholars to shape that content. And you need to think about what this technology is going to add to the user's understanding of whatever the subject is. Think about the value added by the technology. The other thing that's important in all these games is that they will be free and that they will have extensive classroom resources around them. Running out of time, so again, let me remind you that you have 2 funding opportunities at NEH, the Division of Public Programs. Our next deadline for digital media projects is August 15th, and then in January we will launch the new digital program that will have language in the guidelines written specifically for games. In the Office of Digital Humanities, the next startup grant deadline is September 25th. And then in January 2013, ODH will have its implementation grants deadline, and these are awards of up to $325,000 to projects that already have a prototype and they're ready to launch and be produced. Tomorrow, I will have the opportunity to meet with those of you who would like to talk about NEH and its funding opportunities, and I look forward to that. Thank you.